So first of all, thank you to Rodrigo and Amelia to invite us here in Porto. It's a great honor, or to be more precisely, it's a great pleasure to be here today. I must tell you, it's my first lecture in English, so I'm not sure what is going to happen. For me, it's a strange situation because I feel like I have 3 kids. The second one is a girl about 6 years, more or less. And we usually have strange conversations. She's very intelligent, I think. And she always wants to talk about everything in a very deep way, but using always her infantile words. So we have very, very deep conversations, but we talk about the universe, but with the children words. So that's a little bit how I feel today. I want to explain something that I feel very deep, which is the Architectes architectural approach, but I feel that I have just a few words. So that's my challenge, to try to show you our universe with my short vocabulary. I'm not going to explain just 2 or 3 projects. I will show you more than projects, moments of few projects. I think that adding this, all these moments of all these projects, I expect that you could understand something about our architectural approach. I will start, and I will end with a building that we completed, I think that 4 or 5 years ago, I don't remember. It's not a prison, it's 57 apartments for students, in fact, for students of the architecture school, not the one in Barcelona, but just 20 kilometers away from Barcelona in Sant Cugat. This image, I think that was took just before the completion of the works. The next image is just 2 years later. I show you these 2 images because we are interested always with the passing of time or the aging of the buildings. So if you remember the first image with this kind, set almost like a prison with the same window. This is galvanized steel, very cold. This chicken wire, of course, empty when we were building the apartments. And 2 years ago, something happens and the bushes grow up. This is the south facade, so the foliage protect the apartments from the sun rays. This is the image. I think that this is 2 years ago. So last spring, the trees, in fact, they look like more trees than bushes, were very, very savage. So the building has changed a lot, and we really love this kind of expression of the time has passed. Inside, there is a big courtyard with each apartment with her own window, etc. That was a competition that we won. Our first idea was to cover the patio with a greenhouse roof, but for questions of the budget, I think that this is not going to happen anymore. So the first idea was to use this patio as a buffer space where we can decide if we are interested on winter to have this bioclimatized air to temperate the apartments, or on summer we have a sun protection in the south with these bushes that I show you in the second image, and also we have more fresh air, no climatized, but fresh air, and we can ventilate, etc. But as I told you, this one happens, and the patio is uncovered. Nowadays, in fact, they have planted outdoor plants, and they are growing very, very, very fast, and I think it's beautiful. In this case, this is a house also in a small village near Barcelona, in Cerdanyola del Vallès. And here we were able to build a gallery, almost a greenhouse, in the south facade. The house is very, very small. It's a 3-story building. We have in the south this kind of gallery. It works in a very simple way because there is no automatic mechanisms, just only one that in winter, or on spring, or it depends on the temperature, the hot air, when it goes up, then a ventilator extract the air and remove it to the ground floor. So it's an easy way to heat the air in the ground floor level. So this is the gallery. In fact, this is the entrance of the house. The house is a little bit strange because the plot was a property of the parents of the girl, I think, and they divide the patio with this new house and the old patio shared for both families. In the first floor, the relation between the room and the gallery, it's just like a window and a small space where on summer you can open the window, and in winter it's closed to gain this hot air if you want. The house is located in a corner, a chamfer corner. We use recycled windows that were very cheap and were in the factory, and we took them and put it on the facade just for function decisions. The house has no door, as I told you. The entrance is just this signal, and you get in through the gallery. The ground floor plan, it's very simple. It's divided by this staircase, this wooden staircase, the kitchen, the table, etc. And in the next 2 levels, the plan is always divided in a main space, a room, and secondary elements. This is the staircase that divides the ground level. In the second floor, the staircase divides the plan into parts, as I told you. I showed you this image because we really love to use the material in what we think is the best way. So we are interested with the feeling, the appearance, the texture, their capacity of beer, everything. So I think that this image is quite good to express these characteristics of the wood. This is another house. It's another wooden staircase, very different. It's a house we completed, I think, 7 or 8 years ago. I don't know. Here we use a very different construction system. We use large timber panels, prefabricated. They come to the place, cut it, and it was just a question of put them together. I like this house because I think that we are still working in the same way. Here we have a very, very slow budget, and our decision was to try to use, in this case, the wood for almost everything. So this is the structure. This is also the pavement. it's also a material that gives the atmosphere to this space. We also use the excess of wood that arrives in the windows to create this kind of bookshelf, and also the staircase was made of these excesses of wood. Oh, sorry. Oops. Yeah, that's it. That's what I'm telling you. We reuse the excess of wood for the bookshelves. That's why we choose this system to build this house. And then after the completion of this house, when we publish it on internet, we received a lot of mails and also phone calls, quite surrealistic, from people abroad that want to have a wooden house. And they thought that we built always wooden house. We use these systems only because we thought that it was the best system on this side. This sloping hillside, the street was just above, and we must build it very fast and just from the street. So that's why we decided to work with this system. And then we try to understand the possibilities of this system and use it in the best way. That's what we did always. We don't want to work with wood, but when we work with wood, we try to understand the wood as deep as we can. I think that this image is very interesting because here you can see the site with this huge rock, and we just built 2 foundations, like concrete walls, and all the house just above these 2 walls. And that's the image. All the facade, all the box works as a beam that has this cantilever of 5 meters and 5 meters on the right. Then we study where we can put the windows, analyzing the different kind of efforts that the facade must have. And if you remember the section that I shown you, you can recognize the structure in the distribution. And that's what we call, also like Petho and Sofia, a space structure. We use the space as it is. We use the structure as it is. Sometimes we show them and sometimes we can't. But remember the 2 concrete walls and look at these three spaces. The first one is the studio I showed you on the first image, the living room and the kitchen. And I think that that is in what we are interested. This kind of sequence, thanks to the structural decision. So the sequence or the succession of these different rooms are perhaps the best expression of what we call this concept of space structure. And it's the same concept that you can recognize in this image in another house that we have just completed, also very close to Barcelona. In this case, is a solid bearing wall with brick. We work too much with brick. It's the traditional way of construction in Barcelona. And in this case, we are very interested in this succession of this fixed space, this perhaps inflexible space, but thanks to the usage, they are very, very flexible. This is the image of the foundation phase. This is the house. We have a matrix of 2/5. Each room is about 5 meters per 3.5, more or less. And this is the plan. Here you can recognize perfectly the structure. The first image was taken from here, so the succession of different spaces. Most of them could be changed. The kitchen can be changed for sure. And that is what we are interested. The house is very simple. We have a porch to get in, and these 4 rooms, a toilet in the middle, the bathroom, 2 sleeping rooms, and so on. this is a model. It's I think that from during the last 7 years, we usually made this kind of big models. After the presentation of the project to the clients, all the models stays in this place, which is our meeting room. We destroy them because we steal all the furniture for the next model, but they are still there. So our office is full of this kind of models without interest. They are not sculptures. They are just tools that we use to explain the work to the clients. And that also is in what we are interested. We prefer this image than the other one. We don't love this kind of furniture, but it doesn't matter. The furniture is just the sign that somebody's living there in their own way, thanks to this inflexible architecture. So it's amazing for us because we are 4 partners, and sometimes you lead the project, and in other occasions you don't lead the project. This is the case of this house. I don't lead this project, but each year, just before the Christmas, we make a small trip with all the office and went to visit the different works that are in process. And you arrive there and you find the project that you know in a very rational way, like this. So perhaps this is our main goal in architecture, to create these spaces where people can live in a free way. This is the facade. It's always another prison, the same windows, etc. This is another house, also very close to Barcelona, but in a different area. It's just a residential area very close to a huge mountain in the middle of Catalonia. And and here, the house is just a triangle. The history of this house that I'm not going to explain you, it's interesting because they started, the owners, with 300,000 euros, but just before to start the works on site, the budget reduces at 120,000 euros. So they decided to buy a prefabricated house, just a chalet, I don't know the word in English. And just in one weekend, we have erased everything that was not important and put the budget in the right price. And that's what happens. So the house is a triangle, but it's a triangle because of the plot. A triangle with a cavity wall with the load-bearing walls inside, and one more time, this sequence, in this case in a different way, because there is no relation between the pieces in parallel with the facade, but they meet together in the central point. So it's another structural space and a strange central point, like a core of the house with the heating system here. It was a pellets heating system, wooden pellets, which is this one. The image looked like a square room, but it's a triangle. And this is the relation between the different structural space of these houses. This is also an image with 2 windows and 2 spaces connected through this central space in the middle of the house. And the facade, where we use the most typical brick in Spain, and we use it as a ventilated facade just to protect from the sun in a very cheap way. I show you this house, but just only to explain something about the next project I'm going to show you. It's a house that we completed at the same time than the last one, the triangle. Here we use a concrete brick. We use lots of types of different concrete bricks. This is the wall, the fence. And the house is just a black cube, where theoretically the most important part of the house must be the outdoor space, but we fail it. I don't know exactly why, but they live in this house like in a bunker. I think that this is the only day that the window was open. This is the south. But the couple that lives there are always like in their bunker. It's a little bit depressing, but that's what it is. I show you this house just to explain this section. Here you can see at the foundations level, we start with 3 walls. The first one stops in the first floor. The second one stops at the second floor, and the third get up to the roof. And each wall has its own floor. And theoretically, it's the way that a load-bearing wall must work better without flexion, etc. The composition of this house, it's very simple. We have a main room here, the staircase in the middle with this huge, deep wall, and in that case, the kitchen. So the plan is very simple. The living room, the kitchen, and the central point between 2 walls. And it's the same scheme that we use in this house that we completed, I think, 3 years ago, also in a residential area very close to Barcelona, in Sant Cugat del Vallès. Here you can recognize the same structural composition. Each one of these boxes, the first one, the middle one, it's for the common parts of the house, a huge kitchen, etc. The one on the right, it's for the children, 3 kids. And the left one, in the west, it's just for the parents. The children, when we start to work in this project, I think that they have 10 years or more or less, so they don't need to be very close to the fathers, and also the fathers want to stay separated from the children. So that's why we decided to work with these 3 boxes. Each box is very similar to the house that I've shown you just before. It was a strange commission for us because they were not architects, of course, the owners, but they were our collectors. And they write just a few sentences to tell us what they want or what they were expecting. And we were very surprised because the first thing was that they wanted a house with walls. This is absolutely unusual. Everybody wants, because they want a house with walls, but in a strong relationship with the garden. This, it sounds a little bit opposite. So everybody wants to have a garden and a strong and direct relationship with this garden, but they wanted to do it through a house with walls. And that they want walls because they have a lot of paintings and they want to hang the paintings on the wall. It was very simple. So it was difficult to find the good relation with the garden in this house with walls. And finally, we sprinkle these 3 boxes, and these in-between spaces, which are a gallery in winter and a porch in summer. So they work like if they were parts of the garden. And you can see that this image is the executive project's drawing, I think, but it explains very good the idea of the connection thanks to these 2 parts, the living room, in fact, this is, and the entrance of the house. And these other 3 boxes, very closet in themselves, but with a strong relationship with the other parts of the plot, as you will see. The facade also expresses this almost bunkerized or these blind facades, just with few windows. Not always the same window, but just 2 or 3 types of windows. And here you have an image just when the house was completed. They went there to live, and in 2 days, it looks like if they've been there for such a long time. It was amazing. This image shows, I think, very well the idea of the porch that links both parts of the garden, the south one and the north one. And inside, if you stay there in the afternoon with these doors absolutely opened, you feel really that if you are in the outside. It's a good sensation. 2 years later, the vegetation grown up, and I think that the house is better, too much better. Here you can see that it is the two gardens and the piece in between, linking these two gardens, and it was perhaps a little bit evident, but I think it's a good situation. Also the entrance one, which is the low one. And inside, perhaps the most specific thing in this project is this sequence or this situation where you changes being from the outside and get to the inside. And I think that this was taken 3 or 4 weeks ago. Just you can see a lot of vegetation here, and it's, well, we really love it. The boxes are more evident. I remember that when we were building this house, I led this work, and we were just building at the same time another house that I'm going to show you in a few minutes. But the other house has huge windows and also good relationship with the outside. And my partner that leads the other work were very, very, well, he was always telling me that he was not sure about if these small doors would be enough to have a good relation with the outside. So I told him that I was really sure that it would be enough, and that's the truth, because here is the outside and this is the inside, but you have the same light and also the same feeling that if it was an outdoor space, also in winter. This is the bedroom, the parents' bedroom, the same concept, load-bearing walls painted, and just one window facing, in that case, the pool and the garden. And in the upper level, for the parents also, the studio with just a few windows. And all of that was predictable, I think. All of you may know this kind of architecture, and all of you may know perhaps also this kind of architecture. Perhaps the more unpredictable part of this project is not on this direction, but just on the other one, to discover the sequence in this axis that is unpredictable, and I think that it's the main goal of this project. Perhaps it's not the most important, but I think that it's a good success, the relation between the boxes and these gallery spaces. There are few doors, but enough to create this kind of connection between all the pieces, and just, you can see 30 centimeters of the last one, but it's enough to feel this, this connection through all the house. There's the house that we were just completing at the same time. I will make a slight parenthesis just to show you, or trying to show you that we don't work always with load-bearing walls. We can work also with pillars and so on. I show very fast this house, that it's very evident. It's a two-story house with a gallery on each plan, and also a box with different rooms. In the ground floor, the gallery faces the garden, and in the first floor, the gallery faces the landscape. This is the ground floor, and this is the upper level. This is the house under construction, and also another one. And It's the same concept, or quite similar, that the one we use for the huge building that we ever built. It's a research center for a university very close also from Barcelona. It's a research center for two different institutions. The first one that studies the environment, and the second one, it's a paleontological institute. They were very different, but that's what we must do. So here we use also a concrete structure, and we also filled them with wooden boxes. And perhaps the difference is the skin. The skin was made of polycarbonate. And that's 1 year before, no, after we complete the work. This is an image just from 3 weeks ago, I think. The facade of this building can breathe, I think. The building is very simple. We have 4 patios inside. We have 2 different types of rooms. The first ones are offices and this kind of things, and the second ones are laboratories for the paleontologists and etc. So we have the concrete structure. We put the boxes there, creating always this kind of meeting spaces where all the scientists could meet and share their knowledge or whatever you want. This is the typological plan with the 4 patios, and it's very full of rooms, but there are also always this kind of empty spaces where the scientists could meet and talk and interchange and share this knowledge. Just a few of them, these spaces have views to the outside, but it's enough. I'm not going to explain very deep how the climate of this building works, because it's quite complex. But I just explained to you that we have 3 different zones. The first one is a bioclimatized area. It's just everything, the skin and the patios. It's only bioclimatized. We don't have air produced by heating, etc. It just, we use the sun and the air, etc. Then we have the offices. The offices can interchange and remove and use the air of these bioclimatized areas. And finally, the laboratories that can interchange air with the other parts. They are very, very closed spaces. I'm just going to show you a specific part of this project because I think that it's very interesting. It's the roof, it's the concrete slab. It's this piece. Here, it's a very complex element that I'm going to try to explain. I don't know if I can do it. It was a concrete slab, and we put these pipes in the middle to enlight it. The air flows through these pipes, interchanging the temperature with the concrete slab. These are the pipes divided in these areas. If you look at the structure of the patios, you'll see that the pillars are in a chaotic position, more or less. And that's why, this is because we use a post-stressed structure. So we have the air pipes and also these tensors that after pour the concrete, then we stress them and we can lift these pillars. Also in the pavement, there are a few circuits for heating. Each room has its own circuit, so it works separately, each one from the others. This is not the case of the roof, where we put another circuit to refresh the air in summer, and the circuit is for all the rooms in this place or in this other, etc. And also to have more interchange with the air of the plants and the concrete. We use this. We put between the framework and the concrete this element to gain more surface. And this is an image with the 4 patios, the air pipes, the tensors, and etc. This is the one patio. The atmosphere that we create here are really, really, for me, amazing, because it works very, very well. It's a good place to work. Each day of the year, you can stay here in this no climatized space and you feel good. In these areas, here you can see, I think, the texture of the ceiling, the concrete ceiling. So the plan is full of these boxes, but there are enough empty spaces to feel that it's very open space. You have also a relationship between 2 patios, and this is the case. I think that this image expresses very well how do you feel there with the vegetation. I don't like so much the flower pots, but they choose this one, it's good. And this is an office. As I told you, you have no views except in summer when the windows are opened, but it doesn't matter. The inside of the building, it's good enough. This is a laboratory. You can see that here the windows are fixed. They can open never, because they can mix the air from the outside. When I saw this image, I was very happy because there were this huge femur fossil from 1,000, perhaps millions of years, I don't know. And I like the contrast between the new building and this old fossil. My wife works there, and I show the image, very happy, and I say, Marta, look at this. We have luck. The fossil was still there when the photograph gets to take the picture. And say, yes, okay. But the fossil is false. It's just an imitation. But here you can see in these specific places where you can view the outside with good views. So it's a little bit surprising for the owners before the construction to don't have the possibility inside the offices to view the outside, but nowadays they really love the place where they work, so it works. This in the last level of the building. It's an empty space, and the environmental researchers have their own green vegetable gardens. It's an empty plan. And this is the facade. You could be there, and sometimes if the sun disappears, the windows get closed automatically, and it's very amazing. I'm not, the next 4 images, I'm not going to explain nothing about it, but it's just to tell you that we work at the beginning of the project with this kind of information, in that case about the water. Also, we manage this graphics of temperature. We work with engineers, but we take decisions ourselves with our criteria during all the process. So we really love to work with this. This is an air simulation from the patio, etc. What we call like a cocktail of strategies. We really love architecture, composition, construction, etc. But for us, the sustainability, it's a parameter that it's on the table on the first day. So we took decisions thinking about all of this in the same level. now returns to this house. It's in Granollers, also a small city, very close to Barcelona. In this case, it's a terraced house in the center of the town with a protected facade. It's an heritage facade. And I'm just going to explain you the ground floor plan. Now we are going to get inside, but first of all, I'm going to show you the section. This is the old facade, a first patio, where you can also interchange and the air, etc., from the outside to the inside. The kitchen, the living room, an open patio in the middle, and another building for the guests. So the suite for the guests is in this basement, etc. And finally, the garage, which is a huge patio, and the other facade. So that's what you are going to see. In the plan, you can see one more time. This is space structure with load-bearing walls, a sequence of rooms connected one through each other, etc. And this is the sequence, the first patio, where you can take the sun because it's a very bad orientation, so there is no sun in the other parts of the house. And we can tear down the protected facade, which is just on the other side of this wall. The first stage of the house with the kitchen facing the first patio. We are really interested always with this edge situation. And we spend a lot of time designing this kind of moments where you pass from the outside to the inside. In that case, we use the white painter to emphasize this different. You can see here, and I explain it, the discussion with my partners. The house is this one with these huge windows, and that's why he thought that on the other house there was not enough windows to have a good relationship between the inside and the outdoor. This is the kitchen and the patio, the staircase. In the middle is a typical distribution of the 19th century houses in these towns, with the staircase in the middle dividing one zone to the other. This is the living room with very expensive furniture, but I don't like it. And the facade from the patio, it's a strange house because perhaps you feel that it looks like a little bit like an empty house, and that's true. The house is for a rich couple that lives or spent most of the year in Dubai, so it's an empty house. By the moment, they want to go there in 2 years, I think. This is the first facade with the living room, the huge window, and also sun protection that works automatically depending on the sun, the temperature, etc. The other building with here in the middle, there's a barbecue space, and the other building with just a place to have parties with the friends and almost a cinema in the upper level. Rich people, as I told you. And here you can see how we work, in this case, with the masonry, the different bricks that we use. I'm not going to explain you why we work with these different bricks, but it's because in each level, when you go up, the brick is more light. So we use massive bricks just in the ground level and light bricks in the upper level, creating this effect that it's very, very, very good, I think, for me. This is a cinema's room, nothing interesting, but finally the last patio, which is for the cars. But it's a wonderful space, I think. And the other facade, it's a new facade with these typical buildings in the center of the town or the village. And now I'm almost finished. I'm going to show you just 2 projects very, very fast. The first one, all of them are with protected facades in Barcelona. and are under construction. So I'm just going to explain almost the strategy in this case. It was a corner plot with 3 different zones. The first one is this one with a theater in the first level and just an old shop in the ground floor level. This is from just before the Civil War in Spain. So the building works as it was thought only for 5 years, I think. And then it becomes a factory in the ground floor and a disco in the first floor. So what we decided is to keep the main rooms, the theater and the shop. The other parts of the building don't have any interest, so we demolished this one, almost demolished this other one, and here we just create almost on a street. We demolish everything here, trying to create a street that can connect the different parts of the building. The building is just for the neighbors. It's composed by different rooms, and each entity of the neighbors could use it when they want. So it's a building from nobody, but for everybody. It's a very interesting kind of building. So this is a competition drawing, just to show the 2 main rooms, and this almost a street, more public in the first zone, more private in the last one. This is under construction, so here you can see this space. This is the shop. We have light in the shop, but not in this storage area. So we demolish the roof, and the light come down. I'm not going to explain you the strategy of the air, but the concept was how the building works if we don't do nothing about climatized air. So, and then studying this initial point or starting point, we take decisions, and we decided that most part of the building are not going to be climatized, just using the air that we need in the living areas. And we put this air here, and we temperate this area, and that's all. These are the 3 different parts of the building. I'm not going to explain it. The first stage and the final stage. We work with, one more time with brick, also with a polycarbonate roof, with a lot of layers in this case. This is a really bad image, but you must make like an addition with this image and the next 2 or 3 ones. This is the main space just in the entrance, the one that we demolished, all of them. These white walls are really this kind of walls with a lot of scars and also cracks, and the sign of the demolition process and the different phases during the history of the building. We really love this kind of expression, so we will keep it like that at the end of the construction. And then, I imagine that you know this project. We are going to build this scaffolding structure to bring the people to all the parts of the building. So these empty spaces are going to be full or partially full with this light element, creating a big contrast with the two different elements. And that's just an image, a recent image of the construction. We are working with a lot of this kind of patchworks, breaking up windows that we don't want and building pilasters, etc. It's a superposition of lots of different layers. This is the last building I'm going to show you. It's also a protected facade, also in Barcelona. I'm not going to explain nothing about the facade. I think that it's on the web. So each project that I'm showing to you is just a door and I just open the door, and if you are interested, so get in and investigate through our web. So it's also a triangle, because the plot is triangle. The protected facade is just this one. The project is very simple. Here is a south patio, the classroom areas, distribution, etc. And I show you this project because here we work with these strange elements, which are solar chimneys. So it's very easy to imagine how you can work with the sun on winter, because you want it and you want the sun rises just inside the building. But our challenge is how in Barcelona we can use the sun also in summer. So that's why we work with these solar chimneys that are also strong elements also in the composition of the facades. So the solar chimney have a different pipe that goes to each room and then interchange, etc. I'm not going to explain this. These are the kind of information that we manage to take decisions, also with engineers and sometimes other architects. And that's an image. It's not a good image, but you can see the greenhouse with glass brick in the south, the heritage facade, and the 3 chimneys just on the top of the building. And the other patio, just the entrance, where we work with this combination of ceramic brick and also glass brick. In this building and also in the other house with different types of brick, we work with, I think that's 6 or 7 different types of brick. I return just to end to the first work I shown you. That was the apartments for the students. Here the brick was bigger. It was a concrete brick, about 14 meters long and 4 meters wide. And here the goal was to use this brick in all of his potential. So this was a system, a patented system, and they use always with this skeleton, concrete skeleton. Then they covered with plaster boards and pavements and plaster ceilings, etc. We decided to keep them empty. There's the assembly line where they produce the modules, and then in 9 days they put the 57 apartments on site. It was very fast. This is a conceptual model, and that's the building. The building, just when they planted these trees and these bushes, after 2 years, it's a savage garden. And finally, a strange situation, because the owners, the people that manages this building, forbidden to the students to lift any kind of things in this passageway. So this is a fiction. They can live there, nothing. So this is an empty space, very, very desolated, just with the garbage bags. And that's the only sign of life that you can feel there. But inside, this is the module. It's an empty space. We thought that for architecture students, the empty space could be an opportunity. And that's how it was. Just with a toilet and a shower and a small kitchen, and the other is empty. And then the students can do what they want here. Just to explain this free situation, I will show you only the kitchen images. Here you can see the work when we completed the construction, and that's what it happened 2 years before, after. And I am almost finished. I'm just going to show you, in silence, I think, 10 or 15 images of 2 schools that we've completed during last year. Both of them are extension and refurbishments, and perhaps the images could show my most personal approach, and in fact, I think that they are altogether the answer to explain why I am architect. This is the first school. It's a refurbishment, as I told you. And this is the other school. I think that this the last image is a very special image because this is my city, Sabadell. Sabadell is a city without any personality, but here you can see the only thing important in our skylight, that is the industrial chimneys. And I think that this is my kit. And that's the study where my children studies, and also the one that I studied a few years ago, so it's a very special image for me. And perhaps the most important one, this is our studio, this is our people, our collaborators working there in the same space than the partners. I think that we have 8 collaborators, all of them architects, and these 2 ones and Giuseppe are my partners and my best friends, I think. And I am the only one that is not working because I'm taking the picture. It was a night during a competition 2 years ago, I think. And everything that I have shown is not my work, it's the work of this team. So, thank you.